So our speaker today is I've been looking forward to this for quite a while. It's Howard Braun. If you guys know me in my office, you know I have a photo of him next to the candy jar. He is an international lecturer, author, and founder of Dental Town magazine and website. He's known for his expertise in the business and management of dentistry. He also has his MBA. So I have followed Howard probably for the last 25 years. I feel because of him, my private practice was a success. He's probably the best mentor I have ever had. So I'm gonna turn it over to Dr. Ferran and we can start the party. Thank you.
No, thank you. That was the sweetest intro I've ever had ever. I can't believe you have a picture of me on your desk. All right. Well, first of all, it's just an honor that you guys wanted me to speak to your class today. I'm excited, and I'm really excited because when I was in dental school, dentists out there in private practice, they came into the school, and we really appreciated that. And we thought that was so cool that they would come in on their own time and tell us what they know, and they had a different outlook on everything. So I'm just trying to put myself in your shoes thinking, okay, if I was in dental school, what would I want this 63-year-old bald man to come in and tell me about dentistry? I love it. I love dentistry. I got two wheelhouses that I love. I love dentistry, and I got a DDS degree from UMKC in '87. And I love business. I got an MBA in 1998 from Arizona State University, and I just love it. And that's when I started Dental Town in 1999. You know, you guys are going to come out of school, and there's always something going on when you come out of dental school. When I came out, it was the beginning of HMOs, and it was called capitation. And you can always, and it was kind of funny because the insurance companies, they were paying about $20 a month per dentist per patient. And they were saying that they thought that maybe we were doing too many crowns when we could have been doing an MOD amalgam back in the day, or, you know, that maybe we were too aggressive. And they wanted to share the risk with the dentist. And I listened to it and I said, okay, that sounds good. But then when they shared the revenue, it went down to $8 a month. And I'm like, whoa, what happened to the 20 a month? I understand all this stuff, but so a lot of times in America, a lot of times in politics and business, it's money's the answer. What's the question? And then there was, you know, there was always something going on. But right now, the big boogeyman is the DSOs, and I think it's silly because I think everything is yin yang. If you can't say something great about DSOs, then you can't say anything bad about DSOs. Same thing in politics. I'll say, well, who's your favorite candidate? And they'll tell me why they're perfect. And I say, okay, with the same enthusiasm, tell me why the other, or tell me why your candidate would be horrible. And they can't think of anything. It's like, okay, well, you don't know anything. So DSOs, they can't be all bad if they're not all good. You can't have up without down. You can't have right without left. But so I'll just show you little things, try to give you a different framework of how to think about stuff. But right now, there's a big debate on Dental Town about associate dentists or who pays the lab fees. And, you know, private practice offers autonomy and ownership paths, but fewer benefits. DSOs provide steady patient and benefits, but less freedom and an income ceiling. First, associate contract can be confusing, and small details in compensation and lab fees determine true take-home pay. If you learn anything today at this seminar, is that you don't ever sign a contract without an attorney looking at it. You remember, you know, I think they should say at graduations, congratulations, you're a doctor of dentistry, but you don't know anything about anything else. I mean, you've been studying 8 years, math, physics, chemistry, biology. 8 years later, you're a dentist, and now what? You're a lawyer? No, law school is totally different. It's 3 years. I mean, I see stuff all the time. Most recently, this guy here in town, he was in a 10,000 square foot center. He only rented 2,000 square foot. And all the other businesses had slowly gone out. The yoga shop went out. The ice cream parlor went out. Long story short, he's sitting there alone in this 2,000 square feet, and the roof starts leaking, and the AC goes out. So the owner of the building, you know, everybody had signed a triple net lease, which means that, you know, your rent is, say your rent's $20 a square foot a year, and everything above that you have to pay. And so they redid the roof and redid the air conditioners and gave him this bill for $50,000. And he just like, what? And he goes and tries to sue, and they go, dude, you signed the lease. It's a triple net. It's all in the writing. So, when you go to a DSO, you say, okay, well, I want to have an attorney read my contract. They always going to press you. They know you're a kid. They know you'll panic, and they'll say, no, 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 this is standard boilerplate contract. We don't make any change for anybody. It's a sign up or sign down. That's crazy. You're the dentist. Walgreens can't survive without pharmacists, and DSOs can't survive without dentists. You have all the power. You take all the dentists out of a DSO, they are nothing but overhead and empty dental offices. So, your first associate contract, it'll be confusing, but an attorney should explain it to you. You should also have an accountant on that team. Now, remember, dentists are so sweet. They'll say, well, I got this lawyer because I've been going to this church my whole childhood, and I asked the minister, and he recommended this really great attorney, and that's sweet and everything, but he maybe hasn't ever done a dental contract. You want, just like doctors. This doctor might be great, but he's a dermatologist and you have an ear infection. So you need to go to specialists, and there are accountants that only do dental offices. There are lawyers who only do dentistry, and they need to look at this stuff, because who's paying the lab fees? That would be in your contract. And you need to know, because you sign these contracts, and a lot of times you'll sign a contract and there are many procedures that you will do. And when you end up paying 30% of the contract fee, and it's an insurance practice or a PPO, the fee they give you, the percent that you earn, is not enough to cover your lab bill. So every time you do certain procedures, you lose $100. And then you always feel sorry for yourself. You're like, that's not fair. And it's like, well, there's nothing fair on planet Earth. It's survival of the fittest. It's a jungle out there, and you sign this contract and it's legally binding. So standard private practice model, owners cover lab fees, but some contracts shift part or all of the costs to the associates. And associates risk losing money if lab fees are directed, but typical pay is 30 to 35% of collections in private practice, or 28 to 32% with a daily minimum in DSOs. Higher percentages often mean taking on higher lab costs. So now you're going to come to a fork in the road, and that is, do you want to be an employee, or do you want to be an owner operator? And, you probably want to do both. I don't think you're ready to open up a dental office straight out of school. I did. I graduated May 11, 87, and I had my office open I think it was September 21st. But that 4 months, there was a DSO in Phoenix, Arizona back then. It was called Sunshine Dental, and Ed Silker was the dentist who owned it. And he had 4 locations in Phoenix: north, south, east, west. And I told Ed that I was opening up my own practice in Ahwatukee, and I wanted him to know that. And he just laughed. He said, I don't care what you do. You could open one across the street for me. And his hours were 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week. And I was so lucky. I got to work 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week for 4 months before my office was open. And you're not going to believe this, but to get out of UMKC back in the day, you had to do 56 amalgams, pull 15 units of denture, 15 canals of endo, and like 2 pulpotomies. And I was doing my dental school requirements every week, 4 weeks a month for 4 months. I basically did 16 dental school curriculums in that stint for 4 months. And I met some amazing relationships of other dentists. The most important for me was Nick Gidwani, because the joke was that Howard would pull out the top half of the tooth, and then Nick would come in and pull out the roots, the bottom half of the tooth. And watching with Nick, by the time it was a lot of extractions this place. And by the time I got out of there, I could basically extract any tooth. I can't tell you how many teeth I extracted. And it was so nice to know that you're in a group practice setting, and that if you couldn't find the canal on endo, Nick could come in and find it. And if you couldn't pull out the root, Nick could. But career associates and DSOs often cap around $4 million over 20 years. And that's another thing I want to tell people. There's a lot of people on social media. Now, you got to remember social media. Mark Zuckerberg, I started Dental Town in 98. And Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook in 2004. Well, Mark's dad, Ed, is a dentist and he had 4 kids, just like I'm a dentist and I had 4 kids. And he was on my podcast, Dentistry Uncensored. He'd come over to my home about every 5 years and do a podcast and tell dentists how to utilize Facebook. But he'd always be talking about Facebook data. And the bottom line on social media is that 1% of all the people on social media start all the original content stuff. And another 9% are the ones that reply like LOL or yes or agree or argue or whatever. 90% never say a darn word. I mean, 9 out of 10. And so the bottom line is you get these fringe outliers, and a lot of people are bashing DSOs, or they're saying that dentistry is horrible and it was a bad idea. Come on, look at this. $4 million over 20 years. Do you know how many Americans would swim from LA to Hawaii for a chance to make $4 million over 20 years? I mean, and then dentists always say, well, I graduated $500,000 in student loans. And okay, yeah, hold your breath. They get out of school and you talk to them a year later, and then they just bought a home for $650,000 because they got married and they want to have a kid someday. It's like, okay, so all this drama about $500,000 in student loans, and now you just bought a $600,000 home that you didn't need. And you could have lived well within under your means. I recommend that when you get out of school, that you don't buy a home or a fancy car or anything like that till you get your student loans paid off. It's not what you make, it's what you spend. And if you read the data, first it got released called The Millionaire Next Door, and they were studying everybody was a millionaire. And teachers were the number one profession on millionaires, and they make a half to a third of what dentists do. But when you're a teacher, you don't buy a $650,000 home. When you're a teacher and it's vacation, you don't go to Hawaii or take a cruise. You go camping at the lake. Teachers always live below their means, and by socking away 5%, a nickel of every dollar they earn from when they get their teaching job to when they retire at 65, they're always a millionaire. I mean, they're just millionaires because they know how to save a nickel for every dollar they make, and dentists know how to spend $2 for every $1 they make. It's a real problem with doctors, physicians, dentists, and lawyers. I don't know what it is about them. I think one of the things are, and I know this is going to be controversial, I shouldn't say it, but when you're dating somebody way over your league, I'll pick on men, but okay, when you look in the mirror and you're a 5 and your girlfriend's a 9 or a 10, 3 guesses why she's with you. I mean, you know that you're fighting above your weight, you're punching way over your head. And I just think they attract a lot of people say, oh my God, I'm going to marry a rich dentist, a rich lawyer, a rich physician. I'm never going to have to work, and we're going to live in Scottsdale, and we're going to have all this money. So just learn to live below your weight. And if I was you and I was on a date and they bring the bill and she didn't even flinch, even thought about paying half, why she's on a date with you. So, and that's not rude, because you're probably on a date with her because she's really, really good looking, but get over that stuff, man. Learn how to live below your means. But $4 million over 20 years is the cap for DSOs, while ownership is about 6.5 to 7 million, plus the practice sale. You're building that equity in that practice you can sell. And then again, if you buy the land and building, and when you set up a dental office and you're 25 and you're going to work till 65, why would you pay rent for 40 years? And why would you build a new building? It's like buying a brand new car. You drive it off the lot, you lose 20% of its value. You got to have blueprints and all this crap like that. The best way for a practice is, all you need is a house on a 4-lane street. All you need is a 20-year-old State Farm building, or some accountant used to be there, just some old building by the road. And you get that building, it's a 2,000 square foot home, and you turn the yard into a parking lot, and you got the inside and put in 6 operatories, and now you own the land in the building. And then 40 years later, I'll never forget this dentist it was Dr. DeTola. It was in Downing, California. And he was so depressed because he finally sold his practice. He retired, he sold his practice, and the guy that bought it ordered it demolished the next day. I mean, because at that time, 40 years later in Downing, no one cared about the dental office on the deal. It was just the real estate. The real estate was worth 10 times more, was worth more than, it was the whole value was just the real estate. So yeah, if you want ownership, but remember this, you'll say things like, well, why did you become a dentist instead of, say, an emergency room physician? And or an internist, and they say, well, I just don't want to live in the hospital. I don't want to do these long rotations. Hospitals are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I don't want to see patients on Christmas, Easter, New Year's. So I went into dentistry because I like the hours. I mean, I can just do a Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5. Okay, well, that's true if you work for a DSO. You're an employee. You go in there Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5, or even Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and those are nice. But when you're an owner operator, you're eat, living, and breathing that business 24 hours a day, 7 weeks till the day you die. And I seriously think, from watching dentists come out of school, who loves it, who hates it. If your mom and dad owned a restaurant, or they were farmers, or if your mom and dad were entrepreneurs who owned a business, and you grew up and you understand what the owning the business life is, they seem to do good. But if your mom was a teacher and your dad was a lineman on, if both your mom and dad were employees, you might have no idea what you're getting into. And I think when they start looking at it, they don't like it. So, I love free enterprise. I love business. I mean, I have so much fun. It's like a game. You got customers and you got your employees, and I love it. But if you don't love it, whenever you do something you hate for money, it always ends up in disease and depression and drinking and all that crazy stuff. So if someone tries to make you feel bad because you're like, well, why are you working for a DSO? It's like, tell them it's not their world. It's not their conversation. And also single parents. I know so many people that had a baby in dental school, and then they got divorced, and they wanted to focus on their kid, and that was 20 years ago, and they got a job at Pacific Dental, and they just love it because they can be a dentist, a doctor of dentistry during the day, and all hands on deck mom, evenings and weekends and vacations, all that. So just do whatever you want. Because seriously, if you're complaining that $4 million over 20 years is a bad deal, and you really need to go to the 6.5 to 7 million plus the value of the practice, something's wrong with your expectations. Ownership offers greater autonomy and financial upside, but comes with staff management and stress. Associates should examine lab fee terms, production versus collection pay. And that means, okay, so let's say they charge $1,000 for a crown, but they signed up for a PPO Delta, and they're only going to pay you 600. So when people talk about overhead, the one thing they always talk about: rent, mortgage, equipment, build out, computer, insurance, all that kind of stuff like that. The number one overhead is participating in insurance. I mean, if you charge $1,000 for a crown and you sign up for Delta and they say we're only giving you 600, well, hell, that means 40% of your overhead is on just insurance. It's collecting this insurance still. So remember that you got to know your numbers. That's why people hate dentistry, because they got in over their head. Burnout runs deep. It's not just stress. It's usually moral injury. They're doing something they don't like. Let's go back to DSOs. And when I talk about DSOs, I want to tell you that, whenever you say a DSO, people always talk about they always think you're talking about the big three. Heartland, which has like 1,800 dentists and over 1,000 locations, or they're thinking Pacific Dental, they got 1,000 dentists, and and then Aspen. Okay, well, there's like 2,000 DSOs, and the average DSO is somewhere between 3 and 6 locations. Think of a small town of 25,000 people, and some dentist put one in the north, south, east, west. So he's got 4 locations in a town of 25,000, and it's great because, he can own, a billboard. You can do mass marketing, and it hits all locations with a billboard or radio or things like that. And by having 4 locations, a private dentist in one location, they can't have a full-time employee that's for marketing. Like, yeah, I work for the marketing of small town DSO. But when you get 3 or 4, and like I say, the sweet spot I think is 3 to 6 locations. I think but what are red flags to look for? Okay, let's compare Subway to McDonald's or Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A and McDonald's, one thing they do that didn't make their movie, and I know all about this because when I was born in 62, and in 72, when I was 10 years old, my dad had saved up all his money. He married my mom. They were both Catholic. They had 7 kids in 3 days. And he was only making $11,000 a year, and we were fine. But he was able to save up for 10 years, and he bought one of those new franchises called Sonic Drive-In. And the first year in his franchise, he made $60,000. So we went from living off 11,000 to 60. I literally thought we'd won the lottery, even though they didn't have lotteries back then. I mean, it was crazy. And then he opened up another one every year for 9 years in a row. So we went from like living in the poorest part of town to living in Hidden Lakes Estates. And of course, who was my next door neighbor? Kenny Anderson, the dentist, the valedictorian from Creighton. And I learned so much business. And a lot of people that they hate the dentistry is like they go work for a DSO. And what McDonald's and McDonald's was number one, and then Chick-fil-A came out, and they are closed on Sundays. And McDonald's is doing about 3 million a store. Chick-fil-A is doing 5 million a store, and they're closed on Sundays. Well, one of the things they did is when they sold you a franchise, you only got one, and they wouldn't sell you a franchise. I'm sure they might change it today, or I don't even know if they did. But when Ray Kroc was around in the original, you had to be married and you had to have kids. Why? Because if you only got one location and you got a stay-home wife with 2 kids, you incentives matter. It's the same thing with an associate. We've all seen it for years. You hire an associate dentist, their dad paid for all their dental school, they're not married, and they're always up at the front desk saying, can you cancel my 4 o'clock a patient because I want to get to the club early, and but there's a game on tonight. I mean, they're just not motivated. But you get some kid who's $500,000 in student loans, who's already married, has 1 kid on the ground and 1 in the oven. I mean, they'll be at work early. You throw them a toothache during their lunch hour, they'll do a root canal all through lunch, no problem. And when you close at 5 and you say, oh, we got a toothache on the way down here, and it's probably going to be a root canal build-up and crown for $2,500, but they're not going to be able to get it until 5:30. And that doc's like, oh, I'll stay. I'll take 35% of $2,500 for a tip at the end of the day. You need people that are incentivized. Look at Subway or Burger King. Hell, there's people that own 9 Subway franchises. And Burger King, I mean, whenever you eat at Burger King, I mean, some guy will come out of the NBA and say, yeah, I'm going to diversify. I want to buy a dozen Burger Kings. And that's why when you go in there and you order French fries, you notice when you're at Burger King, you're eating French fries, at the bottom of it, there's always like half an onion ring or a tater tot. I mean, there's nothing quality about Subway or Burger King because they're running multiple locations. And it's the same thing with the office manager. You go get a job as a DSO, and and you're wanting to look at the contract. You're like, well, I'm comparing this one doctor is going to pay me 32%, but I pay I don't pay any of the lab bill, but this one's offering 35%, but I have to pay this. It's not a money game. It's a relationship game. If I was going back to your hometown, and let's just say that you wanted to go back to your hometown, and your hometown's got 4 dentists that are offering a job for an associateship. Well, the first thing I want to know is, okay, how many times has this doctor been married? I want to go in there. How long has the staff worked there? Oh, wow. The average assistant's only been here 3 years, yet the doctor's had a practice for 30 years. How come he's been here 30 years and the longest anyone's worked in this office is 4 years, and he's on wife number 4? I mean, this is a crazy house, okay? And then you go into another office. Like when I sold my dental office, we had hired a new hygienist, and the new hygienist had been there 12 years. And it's relationships, and the office manager only works at that office. That's her life, and it's relationships. And if you can't keep your wife, if you can't keep your staff, you're not going to keep your patients. And all they're doing is every month they get 50 new patients. But think about a hygienist. If the hygienist works 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, and I know most of them don't work near that many hours, but let's just say they work 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year. That means she could see 2,000 patients for an hour, 2,000-hour appointments a year. Well, if you had that means 1,000 people could get their teeth cleaned twice a year for an hour. There'd be no perio, no 3-month, 4-month, none of that stuff. So if you're looking at 1,000 patients, 1,000 patients, well, my God, you're getting 40 new patients a month. You said you should be adding another hygienist every 3.5 years, but you've had this one hygienist for 30 years while you're getting 40 patients through the front door. That means every single patient coming in the front door is going out the back door with the staff, with the owner's wife, it's a crazy house. And then you go into another office and you walk around the office, and every time you meet everybody, you say, "Oh, what's your name? Karen, you're the dental assistant. How long have you been here?" And she smiles, says, "It'll be 28 years in March." What keeps a marriage or relationship at work 28 years? And when you see that everybody's been there forever, and you see that they have a big hygiene department, it's not like one hygienist 3 days a week after 30 years, but it's like two hygienists or maybe 2.5 hygienists or something like that. And that's gonna make you happy. It's moral injury. It's moral injury when you go work for some group practice, and let's call it a DSO, and your office manager is running 6 different offices, and in the morning, a team deal, here you went to 8 years of college and you're a doctor, and she's up there saying, "Okay, now here's your first patient, and they got 8 MOD amalgams, and every MOD amalgam is a crown opportunity, and we're having a contest, and whoever does the most crowns at the end of the year is going to get it's like, is that who you want your children to go to when you pass away? Right? I had 4 boys, and they made me 8 grandchildren. And I look at my little Taylor Marie and my little Evelyn and Lillian and Audrey. I got 4 girls and 4 boys. And do I really want to die and have them go to a dentist where some office manager running 8 locations is calling every filling a crown opportunity, and whoever does the most crowns wins a cruise? Seriously? If every dentist works for Wall Street, where are my grandchildren going to go when they need a dentist? Okay. I want a dentist. I want an owner operator. And I don't care if you do own a DSO, but is the DSO owned by a dentist that you would let your grandchildren go to when you pass away? And the only one I can think of out there for me would be Rick Workman at Heartland. Rick is he's a good man, and I have no financial incentives or things like that. But so many DSOs are not even ran by dentists, and the office manager, when she starts talking clinical dentistry, I would grab your purse and run. That is not. Go ask your oral radiologist in class if the office manager, you should always run the bite wings and the SEPs by the office manager. AI can help, but you know what I'm saying. Just the reason people hate dentistry at the end of the day is it's moral injury. They're doing things they don't want to do for money. This is not why they went to dental school. They didn't put up with 8 years of calculus and physics and biochemistry for this crap. You wanted to help people. You wanted to get them out of pain. You wanted to be respected in your community. You wanted to have a great job, higher income. If 8 years of college doesn't make you live in the nicer homes, then why would you do it? So think about why you hate dentistry. And a lot of it's getting in bed with these insurance companies. And I don't want to badmouth insurance companies, but I will. When I got out of school, Delta Dental, their board of directors was all the best specialists in town. The oral surgeon on the board, you referred to him, the endodontist, the periodontist, the pediatric dentist. It was a respectable place. And then they decided that, that someone needs to come in there and represent the patients. So they got rid of all the doctors on the board, or the majority of the doctors, and replaced them with lay people. And it's more, which is a code word for Wall Street. Even though they're a nonprofit, they make big bucks. And they haven't given us a raise forever. And they, it just doesn't seem like they're on the same team as dentists. And you can't have all the dentists saying all the bad things. And it wasn't like that in 87. In fact, when I got to school, the dental director was Ed Judd. I used to call him up when he'd send me a letter and he was concerned about something. I would just call him up and I said, Ed, yeah, I got this letter from you, but I don't want to send you back a letter. Let's do lunch. What's your favorite place? I'll buy you lunch. And he goes, no, I'll buy you lunch. I said, no, Ed, we'd argue over who's going to buy lunch. And I remember one time he did not like the fact that I was doing so many sealants. And you remember this back in 87, 88, 89, 90, that was kind of a new thing. And so we're talking and everything. And so we got done and I was just listening to him and I said, well, I'm really glad that you told me this, Ed. But let's pay the bill and I want you to come see my office. He goes, no, I don't want to see a damn dental office. I've seen every dental office. I said, no, Ed, I want to show you something on your tooth regarding this discussion on sealants. So he begrudgingly, he followed me back to my office and he sat down and I was just crossing my fingers because he was an old man then. He was almost as old as I am now. And so I got out the intraoral camera and I'm just hoping, okay, he's got all those back teeth and please God, let there be one remaining virgin surface on an occlusal. And he had 2 bicuspids in a row and they were on the lower and they didn't have any restoration and the fissures were black. And I just luckily, and I took the intraoral camera because pictures worth 1,000 words. And if you look at a human brain where the eye is processed, it's like the brain area is like size of 2 avocados, and where the ears process, it's like 2 little limes. So humans are an extremely visual animal, and intraoral cameras are everything. You talk while they're looking at the screen on their own tooth. And it's the same guys that do all the cosmetic dentistry work. You know all the guys that are doing all the big cosmetic dentistry cases and all the implant surgery cases. It's so easy to figure out why. Like in Awatuki, there's like a couple of dentists that are masters in implantology. But you go look at everybody's website and they bought their website out of they all bought it at the same dental convention that just says all their hours, nothing on there. And then you hear on Dental Town where some guy's like, well, man, I'm in Arkansas. I'm in a small town in Arkansas. I'm in Benson, Arkansas. And half my patients fly in from Texas and Louisiana. And then all the people are like, yeah, right. You're full of it and everything. But I know what's going on. So first thing I did is I went to their website. And I went to the doc's website, and all it is filled with is all of these cases of his work. It's the same thing. There's a plastic surgeon out here that does the lion's share of all the boob jobs and stuff like that. And I asked him, his name's Lawrence, and I asked him, I said, why you? Is it marketing, advertising? He goes, no, I'm all word of mouth. I said, why you? He says, because you go into any plastic surgeon in Phoenix and they're going to give you brochures from their association and they give you pamphlets. And he goes, I'll do a consultation for you. And he walks in there and he sets him down in a room. He says there's basically 4 cases and he's got two 35 millimeter slide racks of his own work. So you're either an A, B, C, D type case, one of 4 cases. And then he puts these 2 racks in there and he sits down and so starts ripping through slides. And everyone on the left is before, everyone's an after. So he lines up that deal. So if you're a girl and they're thinking about this, that girl that shows up on the left, like, oh yeah, that's me. And then on the right, it's all your own work. They're all showing their own work. That's how this stuff's done. So to Ed, I said, well, Ed, sealants go on these pits and fissures. Here's your pits and fissures. And I had micro air abrasion machine. I like that. So he could see it. Then I took that air abrasion and I just started cleaning out all the black in his 60-year-old occlusal surfaces and, didn't no drill, nothing. And it cleaned it out all the way to the dent. And I said, now, Ed, see how it was white enamel, but see how it's yellow? That's down in the dentin. It says this isn't even a seal anymore. This is a filling. So then what we do is we take this acid etch conditioner and I conditioned it. And then we put on a sealant, but for yours, I'm just going to put in a composite because I'm in the dentin. And I put in the composite there, and then I cured it, and I smoothed it out, and I was all done. And he jumped out of that chair, and he took his patient bib off, and he said, God damn, Howie, that's cooler than shit. I had no idea that's what a sealant was. And it's like, yeah, it's a relationship. He's an insurance man. I'm the dentist. He's arguing a claim. I'm not going to argue a claim with a letter. I'm gonna have a relationship. I told my girls up front all the time, if an insurance company ever has a problem and it's in it for Arizona Blue Cross Blue Shield, whatever, you call them up and you say, we got a company card, we got a dental office, American Express, and we're only allowed to talk about claims. We'll take you to lunch. We'll, name the restaurant. So my front office people are going to lunch with the Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Arizona or Delta people, and they form a relationship where they know these are good people, and we're not lying and cheating and stealing, and we're communicating. So you're always running for mayor with your patients, with the insurance. Same thing with the suppliers. People say, well, should you buy from Shine or Patterson or Benco? It's like, well, I don't even know what a Shine is. I mean, is there a Benco man? I mean, who's Mr. Benco? I mean, all I know is this person. I really, really like this person. They're hardworking. We communicate. We have goals on what my supplies should be, and she's really hardworking. And the best time for her to come in, according to my dental assistants, is this time. And she's always in there. And truthfully, she worked for Patterson for like 10 or 15 years. Then one day she came in and she said, yeah, I switched to Benco. I said, well, you're still you. I mean, I don't care if you work for Charlie, Frank, or Larry. I mean, we have a 10-year relationship, and what I want on my supplies is I want consistency. I don't want to have my supplies be 4% one month, 8% the next month, and then 3%. I mean, I want consistent, and I wanted 4%, but she convinced me, that it couldn't be done because the trade-offs I had to do, I wasn't willing to take the crappier gloves. I wasn't willing to reduce my burr blocks to only 4 burrs per procedures. I admit it, I'm a psycho when it comes to burrs. I mean, I always find a way to use 20 different burrs on any procedure. Freak, right? But but so we communicated, we make trade-offs, and it's relationships. And you're not going to burn out in dentistry if you work for someone that you enjoy. I mean, when I would come to work, I'd start to get giddy as I was pulling up, wondering what happened last night with Ellen. She was in her bowling league, or what happened at Jan's softball game, or whatever. And first thing I did is walk through the office and caught up with everyone on my team. I love my team, and I don't pay people money that I hate. Like, people will say to me, I hate my hygienist. I said, well, that's just messed up. You don't hire someone you hate. You don't pay money to someone you hate. If you hate your hygienist, I don't care if everything she does at work is perfect. You don't work with people you hate. That leads to depression and burnout and disease. And next thing you know, you're drinking beer on the way for breakfast. So just don't do crazy stuff like that. McDonald's, don't become a corporate drone. Most new grads default to DSOs out of fear and debt. A steady paycheck can quietly kill your dreams. Now, here's what I say. Ownership is freedom, purpose, and long-term wealth. You're going to double your money if you own your own practice, but there's nothing wrong with making $4 million over 20 years versus 8 if you own the practice equity, and probably 9 or 10 if you own the land and building. But the thing is this. It's all your attitude. Like, let's say when you come out of school, you say, okay, I'm not ready. I need to, get faster. I need to learn some more dentistry. Let's say you get out of school and you say, you know what? School didn't teach me Invisalign, and I really think where I'm going, I want to do a lot of cosmetic dentistry. I want to do Invisalign, and I'm working for this place, and they're going to teach me how to do Invisalign or whatever. Let's say you get a job at Heartland. Okay, Rick owns 1,000 dental offices. Are you telling me that you can't learn something from a man that owns 1,000 offices? I mean, I could embarrass you right now with a quiz. Okay, well, there's 350 insurance codes. Okay, name the first 50, or just name any 50. You don't even know how to file an insurance deal. There's so much to learn. Do you know the difference between accounting only gives you 3 statements: a statement of income, a balance sheet. Do you know the difference between a balance sheet and a statement of income and a statement of cash flow? I mean, when I was 10 years old and my dad started buying Sonic drive-ins, I think by the time I was 12, my dad used to take me with him to the accountant, and he said, okay, Howie, here's my balance sheet, cash flow, statement of income. Pick one, and I'd pick it. and he'd take it out of my hand and give me the other two. He said, okay, now you got the balance sheet and you got the statement of income. Now make me find the numbers and make me my statement of cash flow. I mean, I learned that from dad. If you owned your own farm, you understood your cost of inputs versus what you think you're going to sell for. And you'd hear mom and dad talking, well, right now we could sell our soybean contract for, $6 a bushel if we sold now, but maybe by the time it gets to market, it would be less or more. I mean, and then there's inflation on inputs. I mean, this is the game you always play, and it's a game you love. And like I say, if you've never been around this game, you might not understand the game. You might sit there and say, yeah, I want to be a chess master, but you've never played a game of chess. You've never been in a chess tournament. You might find out that you hate chess. Always learn. And then what associates do is they keep paying you enough to where they pay you just enough to kill your dream. So let's say you wanted to own your own practice and you got out of school, but you said, I'm going to work at this DSO for just 2 or 3 years. And that turns into 4 or 5 years. And now you're married, you got a kid. And now all of a sudden you start thinking, okay, now I'm going to leave this comfortable thing. Everything's great. I'm up our higher income and I'm going to risk it all. And I'm going to open up my own practice. And now your spouse is like, what? Oh my God, what are you going to do that for? So when you're going to risk it all, that's one of the reasons you buy an existing practice. Because if I'm going to go start an original location and I'm going to go find some 2,000 square foot house on the side of the 4-lane road, and it's got good visibility from the street, and I'm going to do this, I mean, you better get some good demographics. You better go talking to Patterson, Shine, and Benco, everybody that sells supplies in that area. Say, what do you think about this location? Do you think I'll be good? And see, you want that relationship. You're hearing on these social media forums that you should buy everything from Amazon, or you should buy it from Net32, or all this kind of stuff like that, because you think everything's just money, 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 money. But see, it's a relationship. You're going to go start a practice and you find somebody that's been selling dental supplies in your town for 3 decades and you're not even 30 years old. This guy's been selling gauze and dental supplies longer than you were born. He'd already been at Patterson for 6 years before you even hit the ground for the first time. And they you need relationships. But see, it's all risk when you start from new. But when you buy an existing practice and you trust the selling dentist, and you're saying, well, should I bring in someone to audit the books? Well, I mean, again, employee turnover. Are you telling me that this guy's a fraudulent guy, but he's kept his wife 30 years and his hygienist 30 years? You know how hard it is to keep your wife and your hygienist for 30 years? I mean, yeah, I'm not seeing any red flags on the fraudulent guy. But the dental office that, the longest anyone's ever worked in this place for 3 years, yeah, I already smell a rat and I'm already out the door. And I don't need an auditor to tell me this guy's a rat. I can see it in his staff turnover. I can see the fact that he's got 40 new patients a month. He's showing me he averages 40 new patients a month. He's been here 20 years, and he only has one hygienist 3 days a week. It's a relationship. Again, burnout comes from moral injury. And private practice isn't dead. It just takes guts. And why dentists are... so right now, dentists are cranking. And like I say, I've been on this since 87. And I had no idea when I lectured in my dental school that word of mouth referral. The next thing I knew, I've lectured in 50 countries, and I met dentists from all over the world. And when I went over there, I told them, it's expensive to put some American dentist up at the Marriott or the Hyatt, and I said, well, I don't want to fly all the way to Poland and sleep in a Hyatt Regency. That's crazy. I want to sleep at your house. I want to wake up in a Polish house. I'll never forget Martin Lucky waking up in his house, and I got up early because I was on a different time zone, and I went in the kitchen. I opened up the refrigerator. My heart almost stopped. I mean, everything I thought was going to be in the refrigerator wasn't in the refrigerator, and you learn all new foods and cultures and fun. But 3 decades of this, sometimes the whole world is cheery and sometimes you're all cranky. And this is about as cranky as I've ever seen the entire planet. I mean, you got the Ukraine, Russia thing going on. You got the China, Taiwan. You got the Israel, Iran. You got the United States down there, Venezuela. I mean, it's just crazy times. And it's always a pendulum. So when it gets really, really crazy, you know that it's going to start swinging the other way and get really, really good and cozy. And when it gets too good and cozy, then it's, it's just the way I've always seen it. in my lifetime. But right now, dentists, they're mad at Delta Dental, they're mad at their dental school, they're mad at the ADA, they're mad at everything. They're mad at their own hygienist. I mean, I don't think there's anything that you can't find on social media that some dentist is mad at. But right now, they're mad at the ADA. And the ADA, I mean, it costs a lot of money. It's like $1,500 a year, and they're kind of like your mom and dad. I mean, when you're in a cranky mood, my dad's passed on, but when you're in a cranky mood, you can even be mad at your own mom. And I don't think I've done that in the last several decades, but mom's 84, but it's hard to be cranky at an 84-year-old. But I mean, people when they're cranky, they're mad at everything. So you see a lot of crankiness on there, and I'm sorry you're coming out of dental school in a cranky time. The American Dental Association, they're messed up. They their reserves dropped from 140 million to like 50 million. They invested in this big tech platform, and it didn't work out. And I'll just tell you why in 3 seconds why that didn't work out. And that is the same thing you see in AI, Wall Street Journal. Everybody's talking about the same thing. There's the Fortune 500, and only 5% of the S&P 500 actually hired their own full stack software engineers, Python programmers that work in the office to sit there and try to make a solution, try to automate stuff, try to give them tools to do things faster. What did the other 95% do? They went to these AI companies who overpromise, salespeople overpromise and underdeliver, and they say, "Oh yeah, give us $50 million, and we're going to come in and work a miracle at this big S&P 500." And then you give them the $50 million, they immediately put 15 or 20 million in their back pocket, then take the remaining 30 million and hire some programmers and try to put something together to fix the problem. It never works. Outsourcing, it just doesn't work. When this AI revolution came, I hired actually my son Ryan, who was the beginning of the show. You probably didn't think he was my son because he's 6 foot tall, handsome. In fact, Ryan, I want a DNA test. I don't even think you're my son. And he said, "Oh yeah, I can automate a lot of these deals and make everything better." And after about 6 months, he said, "You know what? This is a big project. I think I need another one." And then we hired another one and another one and another one. And I think the ADA. I think that it failed. I would have expected it to fail, and I don't think they should go spend another 50 million on trying another company to do it. I think they should hire their own damn full stack software engineers. And I think as someone that big, they should get at least 3 or 4, and they should have master's degrees. Everyone I hired had a college degree in computer science or a master's degree in computer science, and I only hired 4.0s. And my gosh, not only are they really good, but everything we thought we could do took twice as long or 3 times longer. And it's a lot more complicated than you think. Right now, the government is these are crazy times for the government. They just passed that big beautiful bill, and they're cutting Medicaid, and that's going to hurt a lot of these FHQ dental office centers. And it's we got $39 trillion in debt, and ever since I got out of high school in 1980, starting with Ronald Reagan, it was always cut taxes by tax cuts for the rich, and then cut benefits, and then borrow all you can. And I remember back in the 80s, people saying, we're not going to be able to do this every year. That was 40 years ago. Now it's 2025. Hell, it was 45 years ago. And my gosh, and a lot of people say we're $39 trillion in debt. How much further it's going to go? They've been saying that for 40 years. I don't think anybody knows how long it's going to go. But right now, student loans, they cut the Grad Plus loans. And you're hearing all this stuff. You're hearing Grad Plus loans eliminated. Now there's a $150,000 cap. But see why you can't believe anything you read from your own government. And every dentist talks the same way about their government. I've never stayed in a dentist's house in another country, and I've been in 50 countries where the dentist said, "Oh yeah, everyone here, we love our government. They're really good, and they're really efficient, and they're really..." No one has anything good to say about their government around the entire world. But see, it's a joke because none of this kicks in for 2 years. Well, what happens in 2 years? Well, there'll be another election. And so if people don't like this stuff, they'll vote in someone else, and then it'll all be gone. So if if it's really changing, they'll say, okay, we're going to cut that program today. We're going to cut the Grad Plus loans right now. But that's not what they did. So there's another election. So it's always smoke and mirrors. It's never, I mean, it's always fraudulent smoke and mirrors. So no one has any idea what's going on. But again, I don't even want to talk about the Grad Plus eliminated starting July 1, 26. No more Grad Plus loans for new dental students, a new 50,000 year max, 200,000 lifetime federal cap. And now there's people in high school and in college losing their mind because they thought they wanted to be a dentist. And now they're finding out that they're going to have to get private loans, but their parents aren't in a situation to co-sign for loans. And I'm like, guys, it's all noise. I mean, the chance that the next Congress will, I mean, for all you know, the next Congress will say that it's a 2 billion lifetime federal cap. I mean, you just have no idea what these clowns are doing. But basically, all governments are clowns. They're just clown shows. All they want to do is get elected. And I've been a libertarian my whole life, so I don't care which party you want here. But if you're on one party and you think they're great and the other one's bad, I mean, one robbed the bank and one drove the getaway car. I mean, it's only been two parties for 250 years that got us into this mess. So how could one team be perfectly innocent and the other team be horribly wrong? It's a clown show, okay? It's just a clown show. So in fact, I don't even want to talk about the big beautiful because I think it's a 0% chance that it'll hold up in past the next 2-year Congress. I mean, who knows? They're always changing it. Eric Smith to Congress. America is not ready for AI. AI is underhyped. Let me tell you something about AI. I've had my AI initiative here at my dental town and ortho town and a hygiene town for 18 months. And I've been doing a deep dive in AI. I think it's going to be bigger than the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution was huge. Probably started about 1850 with the steam engine. And the only thing they could really do with it is pump water out of flooded coal mines. But with time, everything gets faster, easier, higher quality, smaller, scalable. And as that steam engine got smaller and better and faster, eventually it was running trains, it was running steam engines. The steam engine ships dismantled all the sailboats. When the steam engines got to America, they built canals. I mean, it was 200 years. And it really was amazing. And I think AI, I think it's going to do the same thing. I think it's the Industrial Revolution 2.0, but it's not going to take 200 years for AI to roll out. I think the AI is going to do in 2 generations what the Industrial Revolution took 2 centuries. So right now, it's just an amazing show. If I was you, I think MIT is amazing. MIT said, you know what? We're not going to change the world by having a graduating class size of just, less than 10,000 people a year. There's 8 billion people on the planet. So they put their entire school curriculum online for free, and they have their AI program, and it is amazing. And I got a link to it here. Learning Python for free. MIT's 38-hour YouTube course. First one's Introduction to Computer Science and Program Python. But let me tell you something. A lot of dentists in dental school, they're saying, should I have, during dental school, they had to deal where at the same time I could have got my master's in public health or my master's in business administration, or do you think I should specialize and be a pediatric dentist? I think you should spend the next time you're going to watch a Netflix movie for an hour, why don't you watch an MIT open courseware, 38 videos, and if you go through them all and there's a test at the end and you get their certificate, it costs $10 to get the MIT certificate. But I already know of 3 kids that I told about this, that when they got their certificate, they got a job on the spot for $85,000 a year. And I just think, man, imagine that instead of AI, I would say Spanish, and that the whole world is going to be, 10 times faster, bigger, and better. And the only people that understand it are going to be the ones that understand Spanish. Well, I think you should go learn Spanish. And math is just the language of science, and Python is just the language of AI. And the thing about AI is you'll buy some dental radiographic software, and you don't like something about it. Well, you can right-click the scone, read the Python code, and start changing it. And I see dentists on Dental Town, and it's just so amazing where they got out of dental school. I'm talking to this kid. He got out of Boston like 3 years ago, but he had brothers that were in software, and so he picked up learning Python on the side. And when he doesn't like what his insurance, what his practice management is doing, he just right clicks and changes the code. I mean, it's amazing. In fact, now he can't stand his practice management software. So in his first year of he's had his own office for 3 years, and now he runs it on his own practice management software that he's programmed himself. So go learn Python. It is just huge. I mean, if I had to pick between going out of dentistry and specializing and learning, I'd specialize in one thing. I'd be a Python programmer, because I think that's going to be the power of the world. As of 2023, there are about 202,300 practicing dentists in the U.S. and 1.6 million worldwide. And between 20 and 25, AI adoption in dentistry surge, with 10 to 35% of U.S. dentists and 10 to 20% globally using it, primarily for diagnostics and workflow. By 2025, over half the dentists in advanced healthcare are expected to use AI routinely. You're right. AI, ChatGPT is just the beginning, but even look at ChatGPT. I got turned on to ChatGPT. What would you say, Ryan? About 2 years ago? About 2 years ago, and it couldn't make an image. I remember a year ago when they started making images, they couldn't even spell dentistry right. I mean, you'd have to make it 7 times. They could never get all the letters right in dentistry. I mean, it has come so far, so fast in 2 years. But who's the most susceptible AI impact on dental specialties? Without a doubt, it's radiology. You're seeing that in medicine, where radiologists who are making $600,000 a year are now replaced by someone for $400,000 a year who uses AI software, and then 2 years later replaced for someone for $200,000 a year with someone on AI who's a programmer. But I think oral and maxillofacial radiology, and it's not that AI is going to get rid of oral and maxillofacial radiologists. It's the fact that an oral and maxillofacial radiologist who understands AI and uses AI will do the productivity of 10 of their peers. So, I'll get this. I'll give you another point. I work out at, I live in downtown Phoenix. I work out at OES every morning. And there's a guy there about my age, and two different guys. One's a lawyer and one's an architect. The architect guy says, he says, for my whole career, he goes, someone would come in and they bought a city square block, and they'd come in my office. They say, yeah, we want to tear down these 20 houses, and we want to build an apartment complex with 5,000 units and blah, blah. He said that would be $1 million contract for a year, and that'd be a good year. And they would go through all that kind of stuff and blah, 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 blah. And he had like 6 or 7 men that worked on drafts boards, drawing all this stuff up, and blah, blah, blah. He said, now, he says they come in, and he goes, I got this kid who's an architect, but they also know how to do Python. And they come in, they sit down with her, and she goes, so what's the deal? And he said, well, we bought this square block. So she pulls it up on AI. She pulls it up from a satellite map. She already knows what the ground is. So she already knows what the soil is. She already knows what's underneath. She already knows where you could drill for water, oil, or gas underneath this plot instantly. And then she says, how many, what do you want to do? And they go, well, we want to build a 35-story building. We think we can get 18,000 people in this 3,500 units or whatever it is. And we want it 35 stories tall. She's just entering the parameters, and she enters the parameters. And every time she enters it and hits enter, it's done. There's the building. And then he says, oh, no, I don't want 8-foot ceilings. 10-foot ceilings. That's too much heating and air, HVAC. I want 8-foot ceilings. Boom, one change. Now the whole thing's redesigned to 8. Anyway, long story short, after 3 or 4 hours of talking about it and going over the looks and all things like that, she goes, he goes 3, 4, 5 hours is the longest. The whole thing's done. Can you believe that? Now let's go to the law firm guy. The law firm guy, he's like, there's like 6 of us in there, as old as you, Howie. And you would come in, and we charge $200-300 for an initial consultation, and we're sitting behind all these books, and you're telling us the case, and we know which book to look in to find the statue, and blah, 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 blah. And then you leave, and then we have you come back in 2 weeks, and we'll maybe 3 weeks, and we'll have drawn something up, blah, blah, blah. He says, yeah, now we hire the new kids, and we only hire, we don't care about their GPA. We want to know if they know Python. We want to know if they're AI. And these kids come out of law school. He says they don't even know law, and they're brand spanking new, but they know this Python, they know this AI. And you come in, and the AI, the software is recording the conversation. So it's taking the notes, it's organizing the notes, it's the key takeaways. It's finding the statutes, not just for Arizona law, but for all 50 states and federal law. And then it also finds the law for all the other countries. So you can kind of get like, well, what's the spirit of this law? What is everybody around the world that has lawyers trying to do? How are they thinking? How are they looking at this problem? What are the statutes? And then they finally decide what you want to do. Okay, so we need to, we're going to do this. Here's the contract. And we need to set up a time with the judge. We've already emailed the judge. And now they don't even email the judge anymore. They're using agentic AI. So it's kind of like with Disneyland. So what agentic AI, and that's what everybody's testing now. It used to be, you would call Disneyland and you would talk to their humans, and they would look at the schedule, they would look at what rooms, they would talk you through. Now what they want to do is agentic AI. So now you just tell your agentic AI, say, yeah, on Friday I want to get on Southwest Airlines and fly to LA, and I want to get 2 rooms at the Disneyland Hotel, and I want tickets for Saturday and Sunday, one for California land, one for the other end. That goes to their agents, agentic AI. So they're booking the room all electronically, no humans involved. They're getting the tickets, they're booking the Southwest Airlines. A lot of that stuff's in beta test right now, but they're already testing it and they're already rolling out. I mean, this revolution is going so fast, but I do think that probably, I guarantee you, they won't need 90% of all the oral and maxillofacial radiologists. And then you go to, because the 1 in 10, one will do the work of every 10. And the only person that one work is going to be, and the one will survive, is going to be the one that has the most relationship skills. If you're an introvert freak and you got a bone through your nose, and you're afraid of people, yeah, you're not going to do well. But if you understand relationships and you can press the flesh and be able to get these word of mouth referrals, and you make humans like you, if you're likable, I think one oral and maxillofacial radiologist can do the work of the next 9. Same thing with pathology. Your monkey eye. Do you realize that microbiology, everything you see with your eyes is only 10% of biology? Microbiology is anything 50 nanometers or less. And 90% of every life form on Earth, and I'm sure in the universe, is going to be smaller than you can see. Like, you can't see Streptococcus mutans, you can't see P. gingivalis, you can't see a virus, you can't see, and that's why it's going to be so sad when you spend all this money on NASA and they're finally going to find life on another planet, and it's going to be like a piece of snot on a rock, and you're already thinking it's going to be unicorns and deer and elk and giraffes and elephants. No, it's going to be snot on a rock somewhere. It's going to be some fungus mold, and they're going to say, we found life somewhere else, and it looks like a burger that you found on the back of a chair. And so yeah, your eyes can't see this pathology stuff. You can't read the stuff. So orthodontics. Now, orthodontics, again, the successful orthodontists are going to be the ones that have the relationships, the one that can shake the hand and how's the mom, how's the kid, how's the dog, how's the cat, because when they take the SEP's going to be automatically read. The treatment plan is going to be automatically AI generated. It's going to go right to your CAD/CAM printers and printing out the clear aligners. And, it used to be braces took 24 months because everybody paid their bill each month, and they came in once a month, they paid the bill, and they got their braces adjusted. And then with aligners, they started moved down to 2 weeks. I know aligners, so they cut the time in half. Instead of changing, going to the orthodontist once a month for 24 months, they're going every 2 weeks. They're going twice a month for 12 months. And now my main orthodontist friends in Phoenix, they're changing out the aligners every week. I mean, 6, 7, 8 months. I mean, it's just crazy how AI is changing everything. I can't say enough about AI. Right now, there's been over 20,000 dental implants placed by Yomi. 120 practices in the U.S. have, Yomi says, oh, I'm sorry, it's to place 40,000. 40,000. My son's always updating my sites. I mean, I mean, come on. Do you really want? Okay, I'm 63. I have to wear loops that are 4.5. I mean, you really want me pulling back your cheek, trying to get back there, lay a flap, and try to find out where the best place to find this implant? And you look at any restorative dentistry, you look at any crown prep, and you can tell if it's a right-handed dentist sitting on the right side or a left-handed dentist sitting on the left side. You can. Every lab tech on earth knows, just like handwriting analysis. They always know if a man or a woman wrote this. They can always tell, and lab techs can always tell. And now you got this Yomi, and I mean, my gosh, why do you have to go? I mean, seriously, it's crazy. And when things come out, I remember when the first intraoral camera came out. It was made by Patterson, and it was $30,000, and it was the size of a pretty kind of a small refrigerator, maybe like your grandma's ice box. And 10 years later, they were $10,000, and they were about the size of like of a Profi, of a slow speed Profi. And now they're like $2,000. Well, yeah, this Yomi thing's bloody expensive, but I guarantee you, every 5 years, it's going to be twice as good for half the price. And then 5 more years, it'll be twice as good at half the price. But I guarantee you, I seriously doubt any of my great grandchildren are going to go to a 10-toed primate to go in the mouth with a scalpel razor blade and start laying flaps to hammer some drill out bone and hammer into some titanium. I guarantee you that's Flintstones dentistry, and it's right now. It's all going to be this. 40,000. And I want to also tell you that right now, everybody over here thinks of Chat GP, and they think of Perplexia, and what's the one from Andromorphic, or Claude, and they think of all that. Those are all the best systems around the world in AI, but those are all closed systems and proprietary. China has half the world's Python programmers, software engineers, and they have the three best open source models. What are they? Quinn, Kiwi, and DeepSeek. And Quinn, Kiwi, and DeepSeek have been downloaded 100 million times. And all these little entrepreneurs around the world, ChatGPT, OpenAI, and Claude, and they're not going to show you their rationing models. They're not going to show you their large language models. They're going to say, we do that. That's the American way, right? It's like, we own this. And every year they're going to try to squeeze more money out of it. They're going to raise their prices, and it's going to be about Wall Street money, money, money. But China is doing the open model source because they're not going to win on the closed model proprietary Wall Street Silicon Valley source. But that's what's being downloaded everywhere. And then with these NVIDIA programmers, my God, you can put DeepSeek on something that you can buy for $500 that's larger than all the computers that have ever been owned in your family tree to date times 100. So this is just exciting stuff. So before you go thinking, well, I'm going to go do a 3-year residency to learn how to place dental implants. Well, okay, well, your grandma could buy a Yomi and place a dental implant tomorrow. So, you got to be thinking about all this stuff. And what I'd be thinking about all this stuff, if I was going to be if I was going to become a periodontist or an oral surgeon and spend the rest of my life during the AI revolution, well, I would stop and listen to those 38 videos from MIT on Python, and I would just get religion on this Python stuff because it is absolutely mind-blowing. Just search Python MIT full course. Anybody is just 40 hours away from earning 6 figures in tech. Top AI companies, Pearls for radiograph, and the feedback that I hear bad about Pearl and Overjet is the same thing. It's just like PatGP. They're not going to show you their software. They're not going to show you their settings. So every oral radiologist, so some dentists on Dental Town are like, well, it said there was a cavity there, and I drilled into it, and I don't think there was. And any oral radiologist, first thing they're going to say is, well, what is the settings? What is the settings? And you're just a little person. You're just a dentist. You're not worthy of knowing what the settings are on Pearl AI radiograph or Overjet. But I guarantee you, someone's going to get that open source software, kind of like Microsoft. Microsoft, they have their SQL Server, and it's very expensive, and updates are expensive, and blah blah blah. But there's open source SQL servers, PostgreSQL, and that's what we use because we can see the software, we can change it, we can say, okay, this is great, for, Microsoft's great for your average Fortune 500, but in our little company, in our little dental office, in our little neck of the woods, we want to tweak it this way and tweak it that way. And the software on the open source is actually 10 times bigger because you have programmers all around the world tweaking this open source project, and they all share. That's the culture of open source. They all share, but someone's going to get a copy of this open source large language models, like say like DeepSeek or Quinn or Kiwi. And I think Kiwi's on Kiwi 2 now version, and they're going to get that. And these guys are going to get a run for their money from some kid like you who's sitting in this class now, who's not old enough to be. When I look at your faces, you guys don't look old enough to drive a car, let alone be a dentist. And you're going to learn AI, and you're going to build some of the biggest companies in the world. And I'll tell you how you can tell this revolution having started. Like right now, when everybody talks about the AI revolution, they keep going back to NVIDIA. And see, I'm an old dog. I lived through this in the Y2K area, 94 to 2000, the internet explosion, and everybody was just valuing Intel. It was all about Intel. Intel's a chip. It was the companies built on Intel chips, whether it be, Oracle or Facebook or Google, and right now everybody's just talking about NVIDIA. Dude, NVIDIA just makes the chips. NVIDIA doesn't do anything for you. You kids sitting in that class right now, one of you is going to get on a NVIDIA chip with some open source AI large language model on DeepSeek, and you're going to look at this oral radiographic stuff, and you're going to say, well, I'm an oral radiologist, and I want to know the difference between all these different settings. What happens to the x-ray if I change the settings higher or lower on this or that? Same thing with Yomi, things like that. But I guarantee you this, the kids sitting in this class now, 20 years from now, the ones that understand AI and Python are going to be the ones that built some legendary companies. And AI isn't even a thing when the only thing you're talking about on Wall Street is the price of a NVIDIA chip. I saw this when everything was the price of an Intel chip. And now Intel, hell, you could buy the whole company for $90 billion. No one gives a crap about an Intel chip. And 20 years from now, no one's going to give a crap about a NVIDIA chip. It's going to be all the companies, all the AI companies built on these damn chips that are going to blow away the future. You got diagnostic support. And by the way, the insurance, oh my God, they've got on this big time. They're going to be able to deny claims like you've never even thought of before. And they're going to start doing patterns. They're going to say, well, why is it that Susie, if you give her 100 patients, she does 40 crowns. But Mary, if you give her 100 patients, she only does 20. We're gonna cancel Mary. She's too expensive. And they're gonna start asking for final PAs of your endo, and they're gonna say, well, based on AI, we don't think this root canal was we don't think it was obturated, cleaned out good enough. We think there's a missed canal, and we're not even gonna pay a claim on this root canal. We think you missed a canal and you're short 2 millimeters on the mesial and 3 millimeters on the distal, and blah blah blah. I mean, it's gonna all turn into crazy town. But at the end of the day, where's the patient going to go? And by the way, everybody knows in dentistry that, and I don't want to badmouth DSOs because they provide so many jobs for all my colleagues that are just getting out of school with a bunch of student loans. When I got out of school, the only place to give them jobs is the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Indian Public Health Service, or, things like that. It was all government jobs. It was either in the military or some government job. And now, and those were limited. I mean, there's half the towns in America don't have any military installations or government clinics or things like that. But now there's a DSO in there's several DSOs in every urban town. They don't go to rural because it's hard to find, and this is what they tell you, it's hard to find a 25-year-old kid to get out of school who's single and say, hey, you want to go live in Eloy, Arizona? And they're like, well, I'd kind of like to find a mate. I mean, I'm 24 years old and there's only like 12 people in Eloy. I'd rather live in Phoenix where there's 1 million. So it's hard to get single docs to go to where there are no mating opportunities. And that's why rural is a great place. There's no DSOs there. But if you come out of school and you've already locked up the personal life thing, you already got the lover and you already got all that stuff and you've wrapped up that, my God, there's so much opportunity. In fact, I'll tell you this, if you go to rural and you find a place 2 hours away from where a Southwest Airlines takes off. You're rural. Usually you can go to the downtown, and on First Street in Maine, there's a bunch of empty buildings, and you go find the mayor and you say, this town, and the government deals about healthcare shortages. They already have all the data. They already can tell you how many dentists there are. 12% of the counties in Kansas don't even have a dentist. And no one in your class wants to go to one of them counties because you want bars and drinks and restaurants and all that, and you're a different place in your life. But there are married couples that sit there and realize they can go to a small town like that, and then they'll go down and they'll say, well, I noticed you got a bunch of empty buildings. If I'm going to come here, there's 6,000 people in this county and they don't have a dentist. Could you give me one of these buildings down there? I mean, you got a bunch of vacant buildings. And they'll say, yeah, pick any vacant building. It's your building. And then you go in that town, you pay your staff $15 an hour. Are you kidding me? That's like the highest paid manufacturing job in Detroit. I mean, that is like a union job. And then you go there and you don't need any marketing because the whole town knows you're there about an hour after you get there. And I know dentists that go there, they don't take any insurance, no Medicaid, no Medicare. Everything's a simple price, $1,000 for a crown, a root canal, upper partial, lower partial. Everything's $1,000. Fillings $250. You can figure out all the bills in your head, and they'll go in there. And I know a guy who went to Iowa, 6,000 people in the county. He was the only dentist, picked up a free building. In fact, Delta Dental gave him $100,000 grant because they have grants available to these low areas where there's no dentist. He got $100,000 from Delta Dental. The town gave him the building. But anyway, long story short, he did 1.4 million his first year and took home 400,000. I mean, it's just crazy. Now, you take that $1,000 root canal, you go into the big city of Des Moines, Iowa, and Delta will knock that fee down to 600. And you say, well, that's only 1,000 to 600. Yeah, but if your overhead's 600 or your overhead was 550, you lowered the crown 400, but that was all profit dollars. You still delivered the root canal and you only made $50 of net income. Where this guy, it doesn't take any insurance. And that's another thing we're seeing with the young dentists now. They'll come out and they'll say, well, instead of signing up for every insurance plan and building this big old monster practice, and the first year I did 700,000 and my overhead was 600,000. So I built this big old beast, worked my butt off for $100,000. And then across the street, the dentist said, well, I'm not going to do the volume. I mean, volumes, high volume, low margin equals a lot of work and stress. They'd rather do low volume, high margin. And they opened up and they said, well, half of America doesn't have any dental insurance. Half. So why am I going to build my entire business model on the half that has insurance that knows how to just reduce my fee low enough so that I'll still stay in business and do it. I'll just do it for about the price of a pharmacist working at Walgreens. And they'll open up across the street and they'll say, well, no, we both charge $1,000 for a root canal, but your insurance knocks it to 600. I still get the 1,000. And at the end of the first year, my practice was half the size of your practice, and you made 100,000 and I made 250. Now and another thing, you get on these Facebook groups. That's what the young dentists do. They get on these Facebook groups and they're all talking about young dentists, and a lot of them are just spitballing and talking. You need to go to a website like Dental Town where everybody's old. And there are advantages of being old. I'm 63. There are so many old dentists on there, and they love it when a kid comes on there and is open-minded and asks for advice, things like that. But, learn AI, learn from the old. Dentistry is not a game of volume. Jiminy Christmas. What I tell dentists to do is remember, what is the procedure that, I don't want to say you hate it the most, but it's the least amount of fun. For me, it was when you have to go in there and do a quadrant of MOD composites. And I say upper right, say number 2, 3, 4, and 5 all need an MOD composite. They gave you 1 hour. I mean, that is a long hour. There's no shortcuts. There's no easy way to get around that. You can't do all 4 at the same time unless you want open contacts. If you want to make those treat other people like you want to be treated, my God, that's a bust ass hour. And, so would you rather do that to make, $50 net or $250 net? I have found out that when you're it's like dentures. When I got out of school, I hated dentures. I mean, I hated dentures. And the first thing I did, this was way back in 87 when dentures were, maybe $350 a unit. I changed mine to at the time $1,000 for a full set of dentures. And when I tell the patient, they say, "Well, Howie, in the newspaper, I could go down the street to Denture World and get the whole set for $250." And I'd say, "Ma'am, I'll hire you a limousine to drive you there. Okay, I'm not doing a denture for $250. I'd rather just pick up trash in the park." And but the bottom line is, when they would stay and they give me $1,000, I think, holy moly, $1,000. Again, these are $87, but it's like, yeah, I actually love dentures at $1,000, but doing them for $250 to compete with Denture World, I just do never do another denture the rest of my life. So money matters. Mental health matters. It's not about oral health. It's about your mental health. You know, and by the way, when people say they're going to replace your front office and they're going to automate that, I don't think AI is going to replace a lot of things. It's going to make one person. So instead of having 3 people up front answering the calls, maybe with AI, maybe with Mango, you can do it with 1. Again, I don't think AI is going to get rid of anyone. It's just going to make the one person using AI get rid of 5 other people that they used to hire to help them that don't use AI. It's just going to massively increase your productivity. I'm probably talking too much about AI. I should probably go on to some other topic. Let's see. By the way, it's 4:20. So was I supposed to go to questions and answer at this point, or?
Let's see if there's any questions. I've got one for you. I think a lot of students here are probably going to work at DSOs. What do you think?
Oh my gosh, they're still awake. I can't believe they're still awake. They must all be drinking coffee and tea.
What do you think the reality is that in a DSO situation, they will actually be trained in endo and oral surgery? Or do you believe that DSO will be bringing in their own endodontist because they could do it quicker and cheaper and
yeah, I think that insurance money's the answer. What's the question? I think it's the insurance. I mean, look at America. America just you look at your state board of dental examiners. They'll pay a dentist $800 to do a molar root canal, and they'll charge and they'll give an endodontist $1,600. So if I'm a DSO and I have the dentist do it, I'm going to get $600 or $800. And if I have an endodontist do it, I'm going to get $1,800. But let's say it goes to the State Board of Dental Examiners. If I got $30,000 and I built a Ford Escort, and you got $50,000 and you bought a Ford Taurus, how can you compare my Ford Escort to your Ford Taurus? They don't understand market segmentation in dentistry. If an endodontist gets $1,800 of resources and I get $800, well, hell, I hope the root canal is better. If it's not, he should refund $1,000 to me. So since the state board is going to say, okay, well, you got paid $800 to do a molar root canal, and we're going to bring in all the endodontists to judge it, and they're going to say you're not worthy, whatever. And then you're the DSO, and you're like, well, I don't want to bill this out for $800 to the general dentist. I could bill it out for $1,800 to an endodontist. So I think by the fact that the State Board of Dental Examiners does not judge you by a jury of your peers, I think if I do dentistry and I'm a general dentist, I should be judged by general dentists. I thought that was in the Constitution. I mean, I can read it in the Constitution, but no, they bring in a jury of endodontists. I'm not an endodontist. I don't want to be judged by endodontists. I wouldn't pay the resources of an endodontist. So yeah, if I was a DSO, I even told them, I said, why and here's another thing about specialists. If your root canal fails and it was done by a specialist, no attorney will touch the case. But if it's done by a general dentist, they'll go find the one endodontist who's a complete sociopath that just has nothing good to say about general dentists doing endo, and he'll be the expert witness, and he'll say, Larry, you did it all wrong, and blah 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 blah. So endodontists will attack general dentists in court, and they'll never turn on their own. Every tribe always protects their own tribe, and no tribe will look in the mirror and say, come on, tribe, are you telling me that you're all that in a bag of chips? You can't find anything wrong with all the behaviors you do in your tribe? And every tribe's like, no, we're perfect. It's all the other tribes that are bad. So yeah, I don't think, I think the only dentist that should do molar endo will be in their own practice. And I also think that's why Yomi is going to go further, because that Yomi, that can place that damn implant. I mean, they measure it within microns, and you're going to have a primate hit a mental foramen. You're going to have a primate hit an inferior alveolar nerve. I mean, really, guys, if you were going to have surgery, would you want a monkey to do it that just finished eating a banana? Or would you rather have an AI robot place it? I mean, I don't know. I'm going with, I'd rather have my, like I'm in Phoenix, I have Waymo. So Waymo was tested their car out here, and Waymo's been out here, I think 6 or 7 years. Guess how many people have been killed in a Waymo or killed by a Waymo in the 7 years they've been here? I'll give you a hint. Zero. Nada. A lot of people say, oh, well, there was that one in Tempe where that lady got hit. No, that lady was drunk and running through two parked cars, and all the evidence and all the trial and everything said no, anybody would kill it. But just in the year, I think it was 2022, primates killed 370 people with their car. So your iPhone Waymo killed no one, and the people driving a car with monkey toes killed 370. I mean, I think computers and AI are going to be placed in the implants. And yeah, I think I would specialize. And that's a good question. Let me just break in there. If I was a general dentist, I got out of school, the first thing I would do is specialize. You basically make another 100,000 a year minimum. On average, you might make about 150,000 a year. Okay, so the average net income for a dentist in 2023 was dental specialists were 244, general practices were 191. Dentists who own their own practice made 260. Dentists who are employed were 183. So you see that? If you're an owner operator, you make $100,000 a year more than an employee. And think about that. If I hired you as an employee, I would want to make about $100,000 a year off you. Why would I want to put up with all the headache and having a damn dentist work for me 40 hours a week for 50 weeks for what? Free? What do you think? I was born to create jobs for dental students? I mean, of course, that's why they hire associates, because they want to make that 100,000. So if you're an owner operator, that's the 100,000 you would have got. And the specialists make about another 100,000. And oral surgeons is the biggest money. They're 334, periodontist 211, endodontist 266, pediatric dentist 284. But then you'd have to work on crying, screaming kids your whole life. I'd rather work at Taco Bell than be a pediatric dentist. I swear to God, I'll work at Chick-fil-A any day of the week. But orthodontist 243, prosthodontist 214. But yeah, I would tell you this. You want to make an easy $100,000 a year more? Specialize. You want to make an easy $100,000 a year more? Own your own office. You want to see half the patients for twice the net income? Don't take insurance. Focus on the half of America who doesn't have dental insurance. I'd rather, and a lot of these guys say, yeah, that Larry over there, yeah, I don't know him, but I notice he doesn't have a very big office. And it's like, well, I know dental CPAs, and Larry takes home 350. Why? No Medicaid, no Medicare, no Delta Dental, no Blue Cross Blue Shields, full fee, and he always charges more on the procedures he hates. So are there any other questions? Was that girl in the front here? Were you waving your hand? Are you going into pediatric dentistry school?
No, I was giving you 5.
You what?
I feel you on the not wanting to work on baby kids.
Oh my God. And I love kids. I have 4 kids and 8 grandkids, but I sure as hell don't want to do a root canal on any of them.
Well, thank you, Dr. Braun.
Well, hey, did you guys learn anything? I mean, was it productive? Did you learn something? Was it informative?
Yes.
Nice. And thank you so much for having me. See, that introduction you gave, I can't believe you have a picture of me on your desk. I hope your vision's not very good. I hope you can't see me clearly.